So what has this got in the milk?
Main composition is whey powder. Yeah, so when they skim the milk in the factory, you end up with a product called whey. And I suppose eventually they dry that down and powder it, and that gets included back into some milk powder for the calves. Whey powder or skimmed. They're either whey or skimmed based usually. I think skimmed is a slightly more expensive product. I don't quite understand the process of... Basically, a lot of it comes from probably making cheese, I think.
Yeah.
You just get these calves.
You're looking pale.
Oh, we went to see our mate in the marathon. And we did a marathon trying to find him. And it's bloody... my legs. It's unbelievable. I hope Greg is suffering like I am.
It's very annoying when Michael leaves things by the door. There we go.
We're in those 4 buckets, there's 15 litres in each bucket, nearly. So 4 times 15 is 60. They're probably not quite getting the 3 litres each. Probably 2 3/4, something like that. Twice a day. So 7 o'clock this morning, and then again about 7 o'clock tonight. These orphans all come from a farmer at Soberton, Mr. Bower and his son Louis and his wife Jill. And they lamb quite a few sheep over there. But obviously when you have a lot of sheep lambing, you also have a few offspring that don't really quite fit. So there's kind of usually a risk. So they could be... Well, there could be all sorts of reasons behind it. And also, there's 2 in here with a number 6 on their side that only came last week. I can't. Oh, these 2. If it's got a number on its side, it usually indicates that it's been out in the field with its mother, and then the problem has arisen, so it's had to come back in. Whereas if it hasn't got a number on its side, it's probably never been out in the field with its mother, and was probably taken away reasonably soon after birth for whatever reason. The number 6, it's a pair. A brother and sister, or sisters, or whatever they are, went out in the field with mother, and then when he's checking his sheep on a daily basis, he could see that they weren't doing quite so well for whatever reason, and the reason was mastitis. Quite good. They're a little bit of a job to get on the bottle to start with, especially if they've been out. They're probably a month old when they came back in, so it's so used to drinking from its mother, and then it's expected to come here to me, and I shove this rubber thing in its mouth. You know, I'm not a woolly clothed sheep, I'm a man in a green fleece, and it's all very foreign to them, so they do take a bit, but you have to kind of let them get reasonably hungry. And then, when they're hungry, if you can get it in their mouth, they will take it usually. But inevitably, what they do to start with, they just chew it, because it just doesn't feel correct and they're not used to it, and they are chewers rather than suckers. And if you've ever reared lamb, you will realise it's not as simple as, oh, well, you're just shoving it in the mouth, it's going to suck it, is it? Not always. And so, yeah, you get a chewer rather than a sucker. But they've come to it now and they're doing really well. So it does look like a bit of a bundle here feeding at the moment, but when we first start doing them when they're a little tiny baby lamb, we make sure it's a bit more individualised, we make sure there's only 4 on each feeder. But now they've got to this stage, they're just, I don't worry so much about them at all, because they're extremely big and boisterous, and they'll knock each other off and drop them the hat. But it's always they're really good at doing that. I know they're getting plenty of food, they're looking well, so... This tractor is called Honey. Appropriately so, as you can see why we call it Honey. 1986 it was made, I think 1987 around, so it's about like 40 years old. And although it looks like an absolute wonker, it usually, so this is for, what are we, 3 degrees this morning, and I just kind of hope it will start, but as bad as it looks, it is a very, very good starter. I would describe it as mechanically sound, but not very pleasing to the eye. Let's give it. Oh, Honey always comes up trumps every time. I have to clean the windows. I've only got a tipper trailer with it, so we should be alright. We'll let her warm up. Probably. They love it. Don't know what's before. That's a red one, that's a different variety. These are even sweeter than these, so if they can ever suss out the colour, which they will do, they will go for these ones first. Just these in whole. The farm's not a very good tractor, it drops a bit away. Just going into, where are we now? We're April, and it's just starting to get a little bit soft. So they'll only eat this now for another month until I turn them out. And then, but it's just starting to get a bit soft now. There's nothing wrong with it, it'll be alright. Hampshire farmers have made it into Suffolk today, so we have come to the Class UK Centre. So our local salesman in our area down in Hampshire, Andy Atherton, for Oliver's Agriculture, it was a very difficult job of trying to sell farm machinery to farmers. And so as a bit of an enticement, sometimes they will bring you to Class headquarters. So I've got a tractor, I'm on my second tractor now. And a bit of a thank you for being a customer and things like that. So they've organised a day here for Hampshire farmers, and Andy's our man, and he's invited several of us to come up and some others. And Lewis Tostevine is from a farming family at East Meehan, who may feature later in the year because Lewis does lots of combining for Mr. Sykes at Denmead. So we may see Lewis on the combine at Denmead farm later. And we've got Peter Emery, who is from Bishop's Waltham farming family, and has got lots of big, sexy class equipment on their farm, namely a forager which blows, and the boys get very excited about driving trailers next to foragers, especially when their lights are on. So Peter from Bishop's Waltham, and Willie Wall, who is one of our favourite young farmers, spends a lot of time working with Peter on the farm, self-employed Willie is. And then we've got Liam Harvey. Now Liam is famous for instigating the South East Hants Young Farmers Tractor Run. It was Liam's fault originally why the first one ran. It was his idea when we ran 13 tractors from South Farm East Meehan, and it was Liam's idea that year, and I think we're just leading up to the 8th and 9th one next year. So Hampshire farmers are in Suffolk.
I'm good. I'm here.
You're here, that's all we can ask for, isn't it?
Middle of nowhere.
It's not the middle of nowhere, for God's sake. Get over yourself.
Good morning, my name's Ian Ralph. I'm the judge today at the Petersfield Global Club Plowing match. So it's just the first plowing match again for a few years and we've started up again. Today they've got 61 entries, which is very good.
Is John famous? Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's all right.
Just give it a hand to get over the wire.
Oh!
You fell for it. 23rd of April. We're at the allotments in Denmead and these are the cows that we saw last month on the cow run that we moved from Hambledon. It's a lovely little bunch of calves there now. Just grown up, just starting to eat a bit of grass as well as drinking their mother's milk. So I'm moving the strip grazing fence every day for the suckler cows because although it's raining now, which is probably the first almost decent rain we've had for probably 6 or 7 weeks, the grass isn't really growing a lot. It looks lovely and green, so I'm trying to ration what I've got. So they're quite happy on about 3 or 4 metres every day. So they are still eating a bit of silage and a bit of hay. And so it's nice and grey and I'm hoping it will rain even more because we're desperate for it. We are a part of the country that just seems to keep missing it. Lucy works at Alton and she comes home and she says, oh, we had a horrendous shower today. And I'm thinking, well, we didn't get it. And down the far end it's kind of going green, so that's where we were reseeding on the Fortum Major with the blue box. Going green, I'm afraid that sort of like 90% of that is probably weeds. Just because we haven't had the rain, but hopefully there might be a bit of grass underneath there somewhere, and we'll look later. I'm afraid to look at the moment because I think it's like a crop of weeds rather than a crop of grass. Look at them, aren't they lovely? Naughty, like a bunch of naughty teenagers they are. Don't know what to get up to next. This is my very good friend Kerry.
Hello.
Who's at Denmead Tyres, and sometimes they help me out a bit by doing my tyres on me. Sometimes agricultural bit. So I save a few punches up on them and they sort me out. And this nice lady sometimes watches me on the YouTube.
I always watch it. You're my YouTube sensation. That'd be enough. It'd be in April. April. We'll be on April.
Yes. Steve's going to be well, Joe.
No, you're right.
You'll be on it too.
Oh.
We might have to get your name somewhere.
You're looking tired.
Sorry. Get it. And Young Farmers Stock Judging Day has recently taken place up at Sparshot College. By kind permission of them up there. They're very good at letting us use the facilities. So Young Farmers Stock Judging Day is an annual event when any young farmer from Hampshire, from any of the 9 clubs, can enter into a competition where they can judge 4 animals, so whether it's a dairy cow, pig, lamb or beef. So they are presented with a pen of 4 animals, and those young farmers then have to assess those animals, and they have to put them in order of what they think is the best animal down to the 4th animal. And then they will write some reasons down, etc., and they have to present themselves before the judge, and then they have to try and say why they have put those animals in that particular order. And so what the judge does on the day, he also goes to that pen of animals first thing in the morning, and he has to judge them himself. So he puts them in his order that he thinks in an order of preference, of best to worst. And then those young farmers come along and do the same, but they then have to try and almost convince him that he's wrong, or as to why he really is right, and that, and if they have some agreeing reasons. And they have 1.5 minutes to present them. It's a case of, good morning, Mr. Judge, these are my reasons for placing the animals in the order A, B, X, Y. I place A first because it's a broad body and good udder capacity and a good dairy wedge. There's an example, and then they go through the 4 animals, and a little bit about courtesy. Are they wearing a white coat? Have they got a tie on? Do they say good morning, or do they mumble to the floor? Do they say thank you for listening to my reasons, or do they just walk away with their white coat hanging over their arm? And there's all sorts of points for presentation, etc., etc. So that's a good little day that has just occurred up at Sparshot. It was actually the same day as the Plowing match, so Eliza was attending the Plowing match and helping to take a few entries up there, and Lucy and I and Sheridan were all up at Sparshot helping to organise the day of stock judging. So that was a good little function that went on recently. And yesterday we went to Salisbury Market, which is our closest livestock market. Obviously in Salisbury in Wiltshire. It takes about an hour to get there, just over an hour. And actually bought some calves. I haven't actually bought any calves from market for probably 15 or probably 20 years. But now the way things work, I rear more calves in the autumn, and so I've got a bit of capacity, as they would say, for calves in the spring. I still get some from South Lynch Dairy up in Winchester, but he calves fewer calves at this time of year in the spring. So I've got a bit of space, and I thought, well, let's have a trip to Salisbury, and bought some black and white bull calves mainly, and the odd Aberdeen Angus. I've got a feeling this Aberdeen Angus is partially sighted. So when it came into the ring, the auctioneer announces the fact that it is partially sighted. And although he knows I'm here, but he should be sort of like reacting a little bit more to my hand and stuff. But he's a good drinker, very good drinker, and quite a strong calf. So the lambs have just started coming again. So we've got some bigger lambs there, which probably came a couple of months ago, and then we've got some smaller lambs picked up 3 days ago from Mr. Bowers at Soberton. So he calves in 2 batches. Hang on.
Another one point out the gate. Yeah. Good. Not a disaster.
Where was I?
So what was occurring?
What's occurring?
We had a mass escape, did we?
The calves escape, yeah. So Sometimes it happens when we're in and out and you're busy doing things and taking a bit of straw on you leave the gate on the latch, and then all of a sudden, sometimes it takes the calves a couple of hours to discover that the gate is off the latch and then want to lick it and then pull it undone, and then all of a sudden they're running around the yard. As long as they haven't gone out on the road. So yes, a small calamity, but nobody's lost their life. And the lambs, where we were with the lambs, yes, all doing very well, drinking well. 3 pedigree Shropshires here. So the little black ones, especially this one. This one is a very naughty lamb and will escape from anywhere, doesn't matter where you put it. Right little Houdini, always keen for a bit of milk. So this is a pedigree Shropshire. So this would probably go to the Orphaned show. So this might be Eliza's new show lamb, and it is female, and it is a pedigree Shropshire sheep. Came from just north of Orphaned actually. And this only breed, I think, Shropshire are very good at not eating bark off of trees, so you're quite safe to put these in the apple orchards, and that's one of the good reasons for keeping Shropshire sheep. But there aren't many of them about, but they're a good little sheep, good little lamb. And this is Rodney. Now Rodney was christened by the chap that picked him up, Ben Hollock, who comes down to see his girlfriend Holly Brickwood. They met at Young Farmers AGM about this time last year, and so Ben comes down. Ben comes to see me on the farm, and Ben picked this lamb up from Soberton with Charlie and Holly the other day. And he's pretty tiny, very small lamb compared, but he is pretty feisty. Doesn't mean just because he's small. He's a good drinker, and he'll grow into something quite nice. So Ben decided he was going to be called Rodney. We like Ben because Ben brings his homemade sausages down. His pork sausages, because Ben keeps a few pigs up in Essex with his dad. And I've latched onto the fact that they make their own homemade sausages, so it's very good. The only criticism of Ben's sausages are that Ben's sausage could be a little bit bigger. That's all I want to say about that. We have a lot of jokes about Ben's sausage. It's the size of I don't care whether you put all that in or not.